we have one more special guest, or four of them. And before I get in, have you guys, beaver nuggets, you ever got into that? These are not for giveaway. These belong to Katie. I asked to borrow her beaver nuggets for this moment. But here's a grown-ass man in a beaver costume. I hope you guys had a great day today. Trying to bring some energy and good-hearted fun. But in the spirit of energy and good-hearted fun, we have our friends Dylan and Andy and some special guests that are joining them, and they are going to share some shop hacks with us. Let me tell you a little bit about them. Andy is the owner and founder of Shirt Kong. They're in St. Louis. He pulled his first squeegee in the garage over 20 years ago and has been in love with the process ever since. He shares his passion for the industry weekly as a co-host of the Shirt Show podcast and fills his spare time with desserts and even more desserts. And then the duo, the dynamic Dylan Gilligan is the owner and operator of Upstate Merch and co-host of the Shirt Show podcast. Upstate Merch specializes in high-quality apparel and merchandising for brands, comedians, comic book shops, and more. Being in the industry for 18 years, Dylan enjoys nerding out on all things print, including, we were talking about you and Mama Sauce backstage. Like, he shared in the shirt crush and the printing crush and the branding. Like, you guys just, what a gift. Thank you for that. This is about Dylan, though. He started the Shirt Show podcast with Andy, and Dylan enjoys sharing as much industry knowledge as possible. Will you join me in welcoming our friends, Dylan and Andy and Scott and Tony. Tone.
Well, today we have a birthday boy in the audience, and I thought it would be really cool. Stephen Farrig, where are you at out there? There he is. So it would warm our hearts if we could sing him happy birthday. So maybe on three. So 1, 2. That's all we're going to do today. So if there's anyone else's birthday today, Allison. Well, then here we go. We got to do this one more time. Any more?
Was it really her birthday? That doesn't count. Steven, yours is better. Bruce and Brett had asked us to come out here and talk to you guys about shop hacks, because that's one of the things we do at the end of every episode is we talk about shop hacks that people have and everything. And we kind of found out that later on, after like 100 episodes, that everybody we asked said that they didn't have any more shop hacks. We've talked about everything we could possibly ever talk about. And we didn't really want to come out here and talk about baby wipes for an hour.
Although that's a really good hack.
Yeah, that's our number one by far, is the baby wipes. We wanted to talk about something that kind of you could implement in your shop that kind of is shop changing, or it could transform your shop instead of just wiping ink off a squeegee. So the two people that came to mind of ultimate shop hacks are people that we know kind of that transform their shop into something really great is Scott and Tony here, good friends of ours.
Tony
Scott
Tiny
is
Fish.
King Screen and Tony at Tiny Fish. We've had them on the show a couple times. But the big thing is like today with lean and everything like that is everybody's questions seem to be, how do I actually implement that? It's cool to like be inspired and be like, oh, let's make a card for everything that we need to buy. But how do I actually get that into my shop? How do I tell my employees, and how do I get them fired up about doing the whole thing? And Scott does that, and he does it very well. And then we'll talk about this later, but we had started a Discord channel that we kind of want to open up to every screen printer to be the ultimate shop hack, which is continuous knowledge and asking and not feeling like you are on Facebook where you get torn down and say you're a piece of shit. So that's what the Scan Me thing is that's around, is our Discord channel. But we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we more wanted to just talk about our takeaways from today's talks and everything. And normally with our show, we didn't plan anything, so we're just here to talk shit to each other. So Scott, what did you take away from today's talks on lean, being that you already kind of implemented?
So the biggest takeaway for me with lean is it's simple. And even bigger than that is you have to start. The purpose of lean is to provide value not only for your customers, but for yourself. The one thing that we can't manufacture more of is time. So whenever you have a problem, you can throw staff at it, you can throw more equipment at it, you can just get big physically, but firepower is not always the answer. The process is the answer. And the more important thing above all of that is people. So my big takeaway from today, and I feel like every speaker spoke about this pretty thoroughly, which is it's about the people that you work with. And in lean, there's something called gemba. Gemba is a Japanese for the word for the scene of the crime. So it's important as an owner, even if you're a small shop. My shop is much smaller than a lot of others. We only have 6 people, but we are a 2 auto shop, and those machines run pretty consistently because we've built the processes to where it doesn't feel like we're manufacturing time. It's actually giving us time back. And that's what lean for me is all about, is how to keep all the time for ourselves as much as possible.
So you said your shop has 6 people there. Do you think that it would be more challenging as you scale, or is it the same? Is it the same principles for just 6 if you have, compared to 60?
I think you would face the same challenges, but of course, you have to start with the first person, which is you. You have to begin, and you have to build that culture of lean in your facility, beginning with you. Because if you don't believe in it, no one else is going to believe in it at all. And that's why a lot of people, when they go see speakers and they get really hype about lean, and they watch all the videos and they read all the books and they download all the apps, why they still fail at lean is because they aren't motivated the way that they need to be, because they don't believe in it yet. And the only way to get there is to do it yourself and really see and become passionate about the result that it yields. Because whenever I speak to someone about lean, one of the things that I always tell them is lean will have a greater impact on your bottom line faster and with more longevity than any marketing you can pay for, because it gives you the most valuable asset back to your company, which is time.
I think the biggest thing that we were hearing from everybody was just kind of like, it's cool to hear, all about this stuff, but how do we get our actual employees to do it? I think that's the hardest thing. I think all these people that came up here and spoke were really inspiring and really made us want to go home and do stuff. But realistically, we all know as owners, because we asked the same questions basically when we had a Q&A, was, yeah, but how do I get my staff who doesn't give a shit for the most part? I mean, they like working there, they like the snacks, they like hanging out, but they also like, how do you get them to be as passionate about it as you are? Because for us, we want to look at it as like, well, if I can do lean, then I can get more time in the day. I get more jobs out. I can make sure someone doesn't come to my office and says, hey, we're out of white. And they're like, okay, I'll order it, but we're out of white. Like, what do we do? So how have you guys kind of dealt with that and getting employees kind of pumped to do the same thing?
So I know, I'm a little bit bigger of a shop, but I've been into the idea of lean for 10 plus years, and we've failed at rolling it out, and I've failed at rolling it out to our staff. When we were 10 people, when we were 20 people, when we're 40 people, now that we're 50 people plus. And I think, like they mentioned in the video for the question I asked, it's hard, and you have to stick with it, because if you don't do it, and if you don't try to bring people to see it from your point of view, they're going to resist it. You're going to come out to the floor, you're going to throw the piece of tape on the tri-lock, and you're going to say, tri-lock faces this way. And you're going to turn around and they go, that's stupid. And they're going to rip the tape off the tri-lock and they're going to throw it on the floor. And I've started just taking emotion out of it and trying to figure out, well, what is it? Something happens. We're not getting applications. We're not getting this. I try to take the emotion out of it and figure out, in lean, they do a lot of why. Try to ask myself, well, why is it that we're not getting applications? Why is it that people aren't engaged in taking moving the fan when they're too hot? Like, if he's so hot, why doesn't he just move the fan? Like, but what is it why are those roadblocks there? And if I could try to figure out how to address it, maybe I can have those conversations, or I can build the systems to try to help bring these people to see it from my perspective, which is ultimately their perspective, because they're the ones working in the shop and working hands on the projects all day.
Well, it's like one thing that one of the guys said today was blame the process, not the person. Yeah. And it's like, I feel like that all the time in my shop. And it's like, we were talking about my reclaim guy a couple weeks ago, and it was like, well, he'll clean screens and he'll coat screens and do this, but then we're like, why the hell are there, 50 screens dirty and he's sitting around doing this or talking about this? And it's like, I could be pissed off that he's not doing this, but like, I've never set a process for him of like my expectations of I need this done, or I want this done, or this is how the flow should be, and all that other stuff. And I've got employees coming to me bitching about like, why is this not done? Why is this not happening? But the reality is like, I never told him. I just said, this is the job, do it. And you can't be mad at him for not doing it the way that I wanted to do if he doesn't know that that's the way I wanted it done. So I think a lot of it with the lean stuff is like, if you, like Scott was doing, taking videos of processes so there's no questions of like, how do I run this machine, or how do I get this thing done? It's kind of like purposeful SOPs for everybody, and they know exactly what the task is. They know exactly how to do that job.
I think everybody sitting in this room is probably thinking, while all the speakers are fantastic, where do I start? Like, what can I go back to my shop tomorrow and do? And one of the biggest aspects and most beneficial parts of lean for me, one of the main principles is to put the answer where the question is. So what Dylan's talking about is in my shop, like in lean, fixing what bugs you, what very quickly began to bug me is being the one with the answer, that everyone saw it. So everybody's coming to me for the answer. And sometimes it's out of laziness. It's just faster to ask me what Pantone it is, or faster to ask me what mesh should this be exposed on, or whatever it may be. And so one of the early pieces of lean that I implemented was to begin putting the answer where the question is. So what we began doing, and what I began doing, is I went on Amazon, I bought a $80 QR code printer with an app that's on my phone, and began very diligently, anytime someone asked me a question on how to do something, period, no matter what it was, I would do it, and I would show them, but I would film it on my phone, or I would have them film me doing it, and I would explain what it was, and then I would immediately put it onto a YouTube private playlist, spit out a QR code for it, and I would put that QR code where they had asked me that question.
Scott, can you put that on our Discord?
Absolutely.
It's got to be great when somebody comes in and asks you a question, you like pissily storm out into the shop and say, film me doing this.
Well, this included a temp.
Yeah, make sure it's right here.
A temp that we had in during a large run, and we have industrial style toilet paper dispensers in the bathroom. Here we go. And he came out of the restroom and said, "How do I change the toilet paper roll?" And so when you go into, my shop is now just covered with QR codes. But here's the beauty of it, and here's a real quick story because I know we're crunched with time. We shifted from COVID to starting to utilize a lot more transfer printing, and so we invested in some pneumatic heat presses, and we started doing the same thing. We just created QR codes that linked to very quick explanations, and that was everything from how to program the temperature and time on the heat presses to how to set up the station, how to actually operate and load a shirt onto the press, put a transfer on the laser line, and go for it. We had a temp in, and this was more to just test whether or not I was on the right path of confidently creating these videos. Totally green person, never been in a print shop before, and I told her, pull out your phone, Watch these 6 QR code link videos that are stickers on the wall. Here's a stack of shirts. Here's the transfers that go with that. I'm going to walk away. I'm going to come back in about 15 minutes, which should be enough time for you to watch all these videos. If you feel confident to begin putting these transfers on these shirts, go for it. Otherwise, I'll be back in 15 minutes. 15 minutes later, I came back to the heat press station, and she was 30 shirts in. So,
And all the prints were on the wrong side.
yeah, they were all upside down.
That's irrelevant.
It's a thought that
But every single one of these videos, very quickly, from my iPhone straight to YouTube, no editing, no intro, no music in the background, nothing.
Isn't that what's important, is to do these videos? They're not like high production videos. It's just like quick and dirty, basically.
It's 100% message over method.
He just has that
Dylan?
one. Sorry. He has that one filter on with like the beautiful eyelashes and like the sparkles and everything.
It's the puppy dog one.
Right. The dog ears and their tongue comes out.
At our shop, we have different press operators, and a lot of them are very proud of how they print, and rightfully so. You know, they've been doing it for years, and they're really good. And so I think that, and even now, when we come up with an idea like, hey, you know, we should be flashing fleece first, and this is the way it works better. Sometimes they always don't buy in. Like one person maybe say, oh, no, actually, you know what, I like doing it this way better. So my thought is like when I get back to the shop and I start trying to implement some of these stuff, like maybe there's going to be somebody that disagrees and they're like, you know, like, fuck that, I'm not doing it that way. And so what do you do in that instance? Because of course you don't want to let them go, although they aren't buying into this whole thing. And I remember, I think it was Paul that said, you know, you sit them down in the office and you say, hey, this is the direction we're going. And if you're not on board, well then, I mean, I've got to let you go. But I hate to do that. So have you ever had that struggle in either of your shops, and what have you done?
But I think the truth of that is that most of us as printers know it's like the hardest thing ever to hire somebody. So like there's one guy that's not buying in, you like kind of want to like not let him go and kick his ass.
For me, it wasn't exactly about lean, but same kind of situation. Forever I dreaded trying to change anything because, you know, we were so cool and all our printers are so cool and no one wants to be corporate and blah, 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 blah. And I go down like, hey, you should do it this way. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And then they go back and do it however they want. I'm like, well, I can't fire this guy. He's our main printer. And I'll fast forward to whatever it is, year 15 now. We just created the whole new system that we talked about on the shirt show, and it's a circuit where people start. They know what their first year looks like. They know they get 50 cents as they work through the circuit. So we can have kind of mutual accountability between us and them. Like, it's not fair for us to bring them in and just, we'll talk about raises eventually. Like, we need to make that mutual accountability. So we rolled this system out. It's a circuit. It rotates. Well, it pissed a lot of the older crew off because it changed their whole day, and they're used to how they liked it. But I had to basically put my foot down, and maybe now because I've been in it so much longer, I had the fortitude to do it. I was like, this is where we're going. This is what we're doing, and we're going for it. And we had probably 30-40% of the people leave. And one of our main printers who's been with us since day one decided that it's just not for him anymore because he didn't want to deal with it. And I had dreaded that for 15 years. And when those people left and we brought in this new crew, it instantly changed the dynamic of the whole shop overnight. People are much more communicative. They share. They help train each other. Within a week, we were outputting just as much stuff as we were before. And I can go over to a press now and I can say, hey, like, you should do this way. Make sure your back clamps are on this. Let's check the tension on that. Whatever it is, and they'll listen and they'll pass that forward, and they're willing to learn. And they said that kind of in the video. Like, once they've decided that they no longer want to learn and grow, and if they're not willing to continue to learn and grow with your operation, then it's not really even a firing. It's that they're going to let themselves go. Like, what are we doing here? Like, if we're not all growing as humans throughout our life, including in here, we don't need to keep doing this.
But you have to have the why. That's the most important piece of the puzzle. You have to have the why. So when you approach a new process, or you go back and you take these lean concepts to your shop, you have to have the why. This is why this process needs to be this process. So the people that are resistant to it can understand and get a better vision for where you're headed. Because
That's what gives you the power. That's what gives you the confidence to have those tough conversations. Like, they're going to say, well, why do we have to do it? Because this is what we're trying to achieve. This is what the customers are expecting. And this is what we want to deliver. And this is how we want internally. We want everyone to treat each other. And I think Andy and I talked about this a little today. Like, if you come from that point of confidence where you know that you're trying to do the best for the whole value stream, from the customer down to the employee and yourself, I think you can go into it with confidence and have those difficult conversations and hopefully move the organization in that way that delivers the value 360.
Well, it's like they were talking about earlier, was tribal knowledge. It's like we've had that in our shop a couple of times where we can get somebody in that's an expert or something and helps us dial in a process. Or like me and Andy have been talking about the last 2 episodes is about white. You know, like how you went through months and months of trying to figure out the best white, and you guys figured out how to do it, but you've had new employees come in, new things. Now you feel like you have to retrain everybody all over again. Well, it's like with Tony's method, it's like you're constantly spinning people around and cross-training, that knowledge is constantly being spun around, or it's in a QR code, or it's, this is how we print white on this mesh, this is how we do this, or whatever. It's got a QR code, it's got all the knowledge, all your SOPs are down. So I think that's definitely something to take home for me, to get rid of that tribal knowledge and kind of make sure it's always spun around.
Yeah, I think with the QR code, though, I mean, I know my printers aren't going to, when they're setting up a double white, and they're trying to make it look the brightest, I know they're not going to go to the QR code. I feel like they aren't. They're not going to go to the QR code and check it out. I mean, yes, once upon a time they have, but why would they do that every day? And so for us, anyway, what we just started doing.
They don't forget things that fast that they have to check it every day. But I'm just saying, if they have a question, instead of coming to one of these guys or us, they can be like, oh yeah, I remember that the hothead has to be at.
But I think it's a combination of things. I think that, yes, that QR code's awesome and it's going to work in a lot of situations. But what we started doing at our shop is little clinics. And so, like, mandatory, actually, before our shift at 7:30, you want to come in and we're going to talk about, because when we tried to find we wanted to print the best white in the world. This was years ago. And we kind of blamed it on the ink. And when we found out, it wasn't the ink at all. It was what we were doing. But the people that are there now, they don't necessarily know that. Yeah, sure, we've passed on some of that knowledge, but not every bit of it, and not at all at the same time. And so what we started doing is, you come in at 7:30 and let's just go over the fundamentals, And so I think it's not just one thing. I think Lean's going to save you time, it's going to save you money, but you also have to keep doing some of the stuff you're doing now.
I was just saying, you just got to make time for it. And I think all of us are in that situation where we don't have time. Like, the deadlines are due, the things are due, everyone wants to get out of there. And that's, for me today, I think some of that, the biggest takeaway is, like, I need to make that time. We need to slow down to speed up. Like, we need to make the time to have those conversations like Andy's doing. And I've seen all of Scott's videos and stuff. So we just got to do it. Make the time.
So along with, the lean stuff, we're kind of short on time, so we want to make sure you guys can go get hammered tonight after we all leave here. Is the whole shop hack thing. I mean, there is all these ones that we've heard, and a lot of them are really interesting. A lot of them are really cool. I've implemented, that's one of my favorite things about doing the shirt show, is that I feel like after every episode, I take something back to my own shop and kind of implement it and everything. So shop hacks have been good. So I had kind of like a quick top 5. Baby wipes for me is number 1, because we use them constantly for wiping ink off of everything. Shop's always been kind of clean, but like just being able to use them to get things up clean. Eric's gonna love this one, is the food coloring and the water-based glue, so that when you put it on the pallets, you can see it as you're spreading it around the pallet. Mr. Clean Magic erasers work really great for getting stains out of screens that are water-based screens. And then my most recent favorite, putting Rodney on the spot, is his program he's working on for being able to find shirts that are out of stock or what distro has them. So bug him, please. He really wants people to come after him and poke him about getting it done. But the ultimate shop hack, in my opinion, is community. So like all of us, we kind of started a little while ago, was this like mild voice chat where, we have a text group where we talk about, oh, I have a question, or where do you get this done, or what do you do this? And we all chime in instantly with like, oh, this is what I do, or I figured this out, or I have a rep for this, or whatever. And it's one of the greatest things ever, because we have our own support team, basically. I know a lot of us think that we're on our own or we're in our own space, but like shit like this, like we're here, yeah, we get to hear speakers all day, but you can go out in the parking lot and learn something from somebody that already figured it out, and it'll change your whole shop. It'll change everything. So one thing that we wanted to do was, from the Mild Boys chat, we started this Discord channel, because there's so many things we go over in the Mild Boys chat that we can't search, or we can't, go back to, or, reference or whatever. So we started this Discord channel where there's the general chat, and then there's classifieds, there's, every press manufacturer, you have channels for that to where you can talk about things or issues. And it's growing every day. So, Tony, do you want to show that? So if you do want to join it, it's Discord. I didn't know shit about Discord before, but you can download the app for free. I use it on my phone on weekends, and I use it on my desktop during the week. This is going to get wild in a second. I didn't know this was going to happen.
Chick. Hello. I can do it. I'm doing it live.
Justin, it's not that kind of show, bud.
So Andy added me to his Mild Boys group text, which was like 50 people whose phone numbers I didn't know, and I didn't know what was happening. I said, you guys need Discord or something. So once they saw it, they've been all about it, and we're really ramping into it. So that's the QR code. If you scan it, it should pop up on your phones, and you install it. Just like these guys said, it's just a place where we can all get together, social/problem solving. It's Slack. It's free Slack. I don't know. Do you pay for Slack? We use Discord. We use it internally too for team communications, but you can make the channels on the side. You can, basically, you're going to sign up. You're going to come in. You're going to click Get Roles. You're going to pick the things that are relevant to your shop. We're going to keep adding these. So if you're, you're using Printavo or Inksoft or Deco Network, you would click the appropriate buttons. And then in the various channels of communication, people can at those things. You can tag people. You can get your group of buddies. So today we just popped in the lean one. We already put up a little video of the speaker. We're having a little conversations. Like, I would fire this fork truck driver anyway. Whatever. But for us, a really great use case for us has been embroidery. We've never done embroidery. We just got our embroidery heads in last week. We didn't know the first thing about embroidery. I came into this channel. We asked live questions. This is Jane on our team who is taking over embroidery. She's asking the questions as we go. There's some guys in here with 100 embroidery heads, and they're helping us. What's the stabilizer? What's the thread? Here's our tension. All these things we didn't know. So we're up to speed a lot quicker than we would be. And I know we're here sharing. These guys are all in there sharing and trying to help. So I encourage you to join and grow with us, and don't be a jerk when you're in here, because we're going to kick you out. We don't want it to turn into Facebook.
That was one thing that we really were adamant about, was Facebook groups are horrible. I don't know if any of you have ever asked a question on Facebook, but you say like, oh, how do I do this? And somebody's like, why don't you fucking go home and figure it out yourself? So we pretty much we booted a couple people already. And it's funny, like Grizzly Wheeler, you guys, some of you might know him. He's like a really good friend of ours. We kicked him out first. And he was like, texted me and Andy, was like, why'd you kick me out? And we're like, dude, you're being a dick. Like, you made a fake name to troll somebody else on the channel already. Like, get out of here.
Andy just wanted me to mention, so when you get in here and you select these roles, it's going to change. The primary one is going to change the color of your name. So if you see here, Old South Co., he is an S-Rock person. So that's why his name is green. Nick Wood must have clicked M&R, so he is blue.
Nick.
And then from there you kind of know who's in your crew. And you can even...
It's tribal. We're going to fight each other.
It's tribal. So if you go at M-N-R, I believe. No, maybe not. At S.
You hunting and pecking over there?
So if you go at, and then the things that were roles, you can actually ask a question to but whatever it is. But there you go, Beaver, eager Beaver. So come hang out with us. We're gonna have some more moderators. Don't be a jerk. And and don't be one of those guys who's like, oh, I have the greatest way of fixing that. And then that's it. And you don't ever tell anyone what it is. Like, at that point, just don't say anything.
So realistically, when we started the shirt show, me and Andy, it was just because me and Andy we called each other all the time to, talk about our woes, and kind of, it was therapy for us to talk about stuff. So we started the podcast, and then we started hearing from everybody. And the biggest feedback we got from everybody about the show was that, I thought I was alone out there with this problem. And then, I was going to shut down my shop, but then I realized that, shops I looked up to had the same problems I had. So then obviously we're 100 million episodes in now. And to us, it's, we want to share everything. We want to talk about real problems. We want to talk about real things. We want people to be able to feel free to grow their shop and learn new things. And we're all going to do rad prints together. That's kind of our, we love doing this. So, stuff like the Discord, hop in, it's funny in the morning. That's my favorite thing is we get in the morning and there's like 15 or 20 people that being like, this is my coffee. And it's like, it's just fun. We're all just there hanging out. It's just like this, but virtually. So.
And a lot of people have asked us to somehow document all the shop hacks so they're easily accessible, which from YouTube videos and from everything else. And that was really, really tough to do. And so this is our solution. So you're able to have it all in here and then always go find it. And let's say it's 2 months ago, you saw something, you're like, oh yeah, that was really cool what they did or whatever. Well, you can go find that really easily instead of trying to search which episode was that, because they'll message me and say, hey, what episode did you talk about that? And I was like, geez, I have
no idea.
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to add to sort of tie it together to the theme of the conference is one of the 8 wastes of lean is non-utilized talent. The talent just in this room is pretty massive. Everyone's sort of realized that you can learn just as much outside in the parking lot as you can in here, if not more. What the Discord is going to provide is utilizing the entire industry and having access to everyone, essentially. And that's a big part of why I think we're trying to keep it more professional, I guess.
Yeah. So we did have a little bit of time for Q&A. We definitely don't have all the answers, but we can point to the person who spoke or somebody who might know better.
I hear a lot of try to take pictures and watch videos. Are we still training our employees, talking to them, or we have them watch a video and then they can't do it through fire?
No, absolutely, you're still training. So it's just a support system so that you're not asked the same question every day for the next 3.5 years from the same person. Yeah, it's a support system, and from my perspective personally, it creates scalability. So what Tony talks about with his, rotation?
Yeah. The circuit.
The circuit. It also yields an opportunity to where we're also working on a system that we haven't implemented yet, but where it rewards knowledge, and it rewards it in 2 tiers where you can know the process, you can teach the process, and those are 2 different tiers. And those have monetary value, and they also create scalability. So training is of course a necessity. The QR codes and the videos is just another support system. And it also frees up owners.
I also think it's important. So if our production manager, Kyle, if he's out tomorrow for whatever reason, somebody can walk up to our autocoder and turn it on and run it and code a screen without asking a single question. So it's not just about training. It's also about, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I got to fill a role and I can do it, right there.
Okay, so hey, I'm Marshall. So I have a suggestion. So a lot of times you guys were talking about employees not buying into the change. So a really great phrase to use for that is help me understand. So they have how they feel about something. They've been a printer for 10 years and they don't want to learn how to use Trilock because then their knowledge is now mute and a catcher can register the screens or whatever, right? So help me understand is a really great phrase to use for you to understand where they're coming from and for them to have a conversation with you without the defensive walls going up. It's an anti-force field phrase. So any situation you have, you can just say, help me understand where you mean about that or where you're coming from. I want to know your viewpoint on it. And then then that becomes a conversation and that can help you see eye to eye on things. So Just thought I'd add that to the conversation.
I just want to shout out Marshall Atkins and Lon Winters, who I saw up there for like the original OG YouTube posters that I remember. So thank you guys for everything you guys have provided.
What y'all are thinking of for the industry coming fourth quarter and first quarter? You know, you've seen a lot of these big retailers that are not doing the additional hiring. UPS is not hiring additional seasonal work in our area. And I just look at supply chain issues continuing to be an issue. And I've heard textiles several times, cotton, you know. So I'd like to hear what y'all are hearing.
What was the first part of that? I'm sorry, Miss.
Just talk to us a little bit about textiles and that part of the industry.
So we just had a conversation internally. One of our guys came back from an SNS or Alpha Broda Summit. And I feel like for us, we've been seeing inventory levels come back, at least for the styles that we mostly sell. I have an idea. My current frame of mind is that the inventory levels are mostly back and that prices, I've already seen some prices start to come back down. So I don't know that, at least from what we're buying, we're having any real supply chain issues going into next year. No, definitely not like last year. We're doing some offshore stuff when bringing some stuff in, but for the most part, most vendors, at least from our perspective, have had what we needed. So I currently don't expect that to continue.
That's like what Bella Canvas was talking about earlier, is how they're expanding and making it easier, and they're getting all their supplies way more. Other than questions, does anybody have anything like they implemented Lean or anything?
Jabeir from Vilside Customs, Boston, Massachusetts. I have a question. My question is, I guess I'm in between the boss and babysitter role. So what do you advise me do in terms of, I want the work environment to be comfortable, fun. I guess everybody wants that. But what's the threshold between the two? And I guess what are your pointers on trying to become more of a boss, I guess, and less of a babysitter? That's all.
Who wants to take that one? I feel like I can't say much to that because I feel like the ultimate shop of, I give them everything. I mean, between snacks and grilling on Wednesdays and steak night on Thursdays and, just bullshit that happens at the shop all day. Like, everyone always asks me, like, do you even print shirts at your shop? So, for me, it was funny. He was talking about getting your employees to take on more tasks and kind of be the manager of their position. So for me, that's the easiest way, is trusting in them to make the decisions. They own up. They own their area. They're prideful of their work. So I can say that I give them all these freedoms and whatever, and it's great. And the shop is great, but everyone at my shop is kind of in charge of their own area. So I kind of, when something happens, I'm kind of like, well, that's your area. Like, what? Don't come to me with a problem unless you have like some kind of solution or some way of going about it. But I feel like all four of us run our shops totally differently. So
I think I have probably a very different perspective, because I don't like the term boss. I don't like when people call me boss. I don't like when people call me sir. And I don't have employees. I have team members that are human beings with human being problems and lives that are way outside of thinking about t-shirts every day, which is a perspective that I think sometimes owners can lose. I consider myself a team member, so I'm on the floor with my team every single day. And so I'm practicing what I preach. I'm following the processes and procedures that we've outlined. And again, circling it back to Lean, is you have to ask why. You have to, if you have a problematic team member, you have to ask them why. We recently had an issue with someone in our shop we're completely incapable of showing up on time. Whatever it was, we just could not seem to get them to be there on time. And so I had to have a conversation And I didn't pry or dig. They volunteered the information very freely and openly. And from the information that they gave me, we then found a solution that worked for them. They felt better. They've been a more productive staff member or team member ever since. And so just by asking why and speaking to the person, the biggest takeaway for me is empathy. Just be empathetic for the people that provide you with the life you have as much as the life you're providing for them.
To piggyback on that, I always, I don't say this to them, to my team, but I always have this philosophy is that they don't work for me, I work for them. And so when they have an issue, it's my job to support whatever role they're having that issue in. And I mean, we can have a fancy press, we can have the best CTS, which is wax, right, Brett? But that doesn't matter, like really, in the end of the day. What matters are the people who are running it, because, subtract them and we don't do anything that day. And so I think that everybody has a bad day, sometimes even bad weeks. And I like to see it when their teammates, like pick them up. But if they don't, and it's my job, to recognize that and to read the room and then maybe go talk to them. Not during their shift and not when they're on press or whatever they're doing, but just to find time to go have a chat with them. That's the way I do it anyway.
Yeah, I think another part of that too is that, like, I'm not a printer. I'm more in the office and doing my role of marketing and whatever else I'm doing. But I ask them first. Like, if I buy a piece of equipment or I do whatever, I'm asking them their opinions before I just pull the trigger and buy it and do these processes and whatever. I ask them how they feel about it, and they're just like, "Why would you do that? It's stupid. It doesn't make any sense." And then I'm like, "Okay, well, I guess I won't buy that." So it kind of like, I take their consideration, and it's like right now I'm on this trip or I was in Vegas or whatever. Like, I didn't hear from the shop. Like, things happened. People ran stuff to UPS or they worked on a weekend or whatever. Like, I didn't have to ask. They just did it because they take pride in our shop. Anyway. Yeah, we're printing like 5 shirts a week, so it's not really anything.
The one quick thing I'll say to that is, I think an easy way to think about it is, like, I just need to be stupider. Like, I need to not get in there and try to do it all myself and get my ego aside. We're all self-starters. We all started these businesses. We all know all the answers. And then we go out to the floor and we bring that energy out there, and we don't leave room for anyone to try to learn and make those mistakes on their own. So the more dumb I've gotten, the more everyone else has had a chance to become smart in the shop. So I spent a lot of years just doing it all myself to show how cool I was and how much I could do the print, and look at this. So I would maybe approach it like that. Like, in a way, what Dylan does, he's not on the floor. He cannot help you. You have to figure it out. Like, if you're going to do this, his staff has to do it, and they're going to become better that way because he can't help them do it. So, no, you can't do it. I'm saying you're inadequate.
Thanks. I've heard that before.
Guys, I just want to say thanks for tuning in. If you listen to us, it means a lot to us. And thanks for having us here tonight. I think that's it.
Give it up.